In the ever-growing garden of soon-to-be Avengers, we're starting to see a lot of MCU growth potential, so we've arranged them here in neat little pots. It's a lot to keep up with, so we've sorted them all for you from already bloomed and growing to seeds that have been planted, and then a few we've got to dig a little deeper for. Let's see what's in that fertile MCU soil for Phase 5's Avengers lineup. We will soon see the Master of Kung Fu as Shang Chi makes his mark in Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings this fall. Played by Chinese-Canadian actor Simu Liu, you know he'll mix that humor, heart, and fierce energy the MCU has been known for, which lines him up perfectly to become a future staple of any Avengers lineup. With the inclusion of the Mandarin and all the MCU time magic, something tells us the Legend of the Ten Rings might have a rich history intertwined with Asian culture. Either way, badass addition to the team.
Thank you.
A huge power-up to any Avengers team is the addition of Jennifer Walters, better known as She-Hulk. The cousin of our current He-Hulk, Bruce Banner, Jennifer Walters is a skilled lawyer, getting a full season run on Disney+.
Jennifer Walters is a Hulk, she's a lawyer, and she's going to star in a show unlike anything we've done before.
Should we be expecting the MCU's first courtroom drama? We know Mark Ruffalo's been tapped to appear alongside Tatiana Maslany in the lead. In the comics, she was saved via blood transfusion after a shooting, and it just happened the only person around was Bruce? Really? The giant rage disease he has didn't make you a little nervous? Hey, this may get adapted, but sure, make it work for you. It's Yelena Belova, honey. Oh. Sorry, Yelena Belova. You know her, you love her, she loves pockets.
You can put so much stuff in there, you wouldn't even know.
How could we not see her coming back? While already introduced, she's been teased through a post-credit scene for Return. Black Widow 2 Electric Boogaloo seems to have potential for a long and prosperous run ahead of her. The skipper to Natasha Romanoff's ass-kicker Barbie, Belova is a solid candidate to fill Scarlett's boots, left vacant in the wake of the Super Spy Super Sacrifice. With powerhouse actor Florence Pugh in the role, we're more than happy to see where this character ends up for Phase 5. Another Phase 4 freshman from the class of Black Widow, Red Guardian is a full of potential character that we'd love to see squeeze back into his red suit. And it helps that David Harbour, who plays the Russian super soldier, has indicated in interviews that he's down for another round as the comedic commie crusader. With a story-rich past and a fresh out of prison future, Red Guardian has some big impact potential we're likely to see play out in Phase 5 and beyond. In the comics, Kate Bishop has held the mantle of Hawkeye in some pretty amazing comic runs. Specific shout out to the Fraction Aha run for anyone who's interested in getting acquainted with this character before the Disney Plus series drops this fall. This paperback precedent leads us to believe that there is a good chance we'll see the passing of the torch, if not in this series, then at least getting set up to play out through Phase 4, leaving Bishop as our Phase 5 Hawkeye. Speaking of mantles being passed on, we can't forget the big one we just witnessed. The shield and role of Captain America officially being taken up by the hero formerly known as the Falcon, Sam Wilson. Having just dedicated an entire series to Anthony Mackie's character is coming to terms with taking up the shield. It only seems appropriate for that emotional journey to have a lasting impact in the MCU. With no shortage of super soldiers, magic users, and alien folks zipping around, what the Avengers really need as they face new baddies is a moral compass, which is exactly what Steve Rogers was, and what Sam Wilson has proven he can be.
The only power I have is that I believe we can do better.
The staple young Avenger Kamala Khan has been announced and will be seen in an upcoming TV series as Ms. Marvel, as well as in a 2022 film called The Marvels alongside Brie Larson and Teyonah Parris. And that's an awful lot of screen time for Kamala, and if you're familiar with the character, you don't want to miss Ms. Marvel. Been a hot minute, but it really sounds like Jane Foster's going through some stuff with Thor Classic in the upcoming Thor Love and Thunder. By stuff, we could mean cancer, which is how it plays out in the comics. While Thor deals with Gore the God Butcher, she becomes Earth's representative to the Congress of Worlds. We've seen Natalie play a diplomat a couple of times, so it's not exactly a stretch. But Thor isn't exactly in charge right now in the MCU. The reasoning that Jane picks up Mjolnir could very well be more attuned to their relationship, but certainly we're going forward with an all-new, all-different Thor. And if so, a welcome addition to the new Avengers. Every group of young Avengers needs a tech genius, and while there are a few in the Avengers lineup, who couldn't use Riri Williams as Ironheart? The story of a gifted 15-year-old MIT student creating her own Iron Man suit inspired by Tony Stark has been set up since we saw Tony fund the engineering of young minds back in Civil War.
All of your projects have just been approved and funded.
With Don Cheadle taking a lead in Armor Wars, you can be guaranteed seeds get planted for Riri to take over as part of an upcoming Champions team. If you want to get a read on the character, make sure to check out Brian Michael Bendis' Riri run, which is where you'll clearly see where the heart in her name comes from. Let's take a break from our new friends with familiar superhero names and look at not only a new character, but possibly an entire new race of beings that could end up playing a big role in the future of the MCU. Blade, vampires. Heck yes. Blade's entry into the MCU could also usher in a whole swath of underworld stories soon to be uncovered. And hey, it's been a sufficient amount of time since the Twilight movies, so, we're ready for vampires to be cool again, right? While we're in the supernatural realm, let's talk a little bit about the looming specter that is Moon Knight. Mark Spector was a former Marine and CIA agent who found himself procuring the idol of Egyptian god Khonshu. He's a character that really lives with the intricacies of living with mental illness. Spector lapses back into dissociative identity disorder and is dealing with his multiple personalities on top of his ancient Egyptian power set. With all the ancient time talk in the MCU right now, it could be easy to set up Khonshu as an ancient power, or alternatively with acting talent like Oscar Isaac, you can certainly play the it was all in his head angle. There's a lot coming out of Wakanda, with Ryan Coogler not only directing Black Panther 2, but reportedly creating a new Wakanda series on Disney+. Respecting the legacy of T'Challa will be key, yet it is certain someone in the MCU will have to take the lead as royal emissary of the Hidden Nation. Shuri seems a viable option with comic book precedent, but M'Baku's also set to return, with Okoye and Nakia. Furthermore, rumors have been swirling around an alternate version of Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger coming to the light side and claiming the role of Jaguar. It might be a stretch, but there's definitely no shortage of possibilities to keep Wakanda going forever. A rumored Avenger turned antagonist to the Wakandans is the son of an Atlantean princess and sailor, Namor the Submariner. One of the earliest appearing Marvel characters, Namor was in Marvel Comics #1, published by Timely Comics back in 1939. Namor is a keystone leader in the MCU, but he and Black Panther generally have differing views on things as leaders. Also a brilliant way to introduce mutants into the MCU, Namor has been a staple catalyst character in the comics, and anytime he shows up, you can tell the world's about to shift. Let's take a pause to consider antagonists in the will they or won't they category that will work with the Avengers, but most of the time doom them. Enter one of the all-time Marvel greats, Dr. Doom. Victor Von Doom, like Namor and Black Panther, are political threats as leaders of their respective territories. But Von Doom's Omega-level intellect and the sorcery skills really make him a next-level threat. Expect him to be an ongoing problem in the MCU, because you don't do one Doom story. Once Victor makes his way to the screen, expect him to be around for a while, once the Fantastic Four arrive, and a consistent part of the Marvel Universe going forward. Like his mustache, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross has been sitting under our noses since the MCU's first year when we were still experimenting with Hulks. If Edward Norton can transform into Mark Ruffalo, then when will we finally see Ross transform into the Red Hulk? Could be sooner than later, since we see Madam Hydra putting together what very much seems like a Thunderbolts team. Well, how do you have a Thunderbolts team without its namesake? With Incredible Hulk references popping up everywhere, like Abomination in Shang Chi's trailer, the Hulk Hunter might finally get tired enough of tracking these heroes to get gammed up himself and do his job. Hulk stash. In The Falcon and Winter Soldier, we caught the first glimpses of a young Joaquin Torres, who was a first lieutenant and intelligence officer working with Sam Wilson early on. We know he survived the snap and spent time helping the restoration of the world before joining Sam to inform him about the Flag Smashers. While his first encounter with the Flag Smashers didn't go great for Joaquin, he showed himself very worthy of his wings and adept at what Falcons do best: reconnaissance. Now that Sam has the shield, there is room for a new Falcon, and he fits perfectly into that new group of young Avengers. If we're looking for smaller folks likely to make a big impact, we should not ignore Cassie Lang. Yes, Peanut was a little too teeny in the first 2 Ant films, but since Endgame, we've really seen her take a jump into teenhood. 5 years from this to this? Okay. Anyways, we know Cassie has always had it in her head to do what her dad does.
So Cassie, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to help people. Like my dad.
Since daddy issues loom large in the MCU, expect Cassie to want to take on the mantle of her father, and eventually take on the role of Stature. She admires her father greatly, and in the comics, after the loss of her dad, becomes a key member of the Young Avengers, and played pretty prominently in Secret Invasion. We know the Guardians have one more big outing, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 set for 2023, but after that point, who knows what'll happen with the Space Bandits. One question we'll have after the heartstring pull of losing Michael Rooker's Yondu is, will Kraglin take up the arrow? We saw him brushing up on his whistling skills unsuccessfully at the end of Guardians Volume 2, but it looks like he didn't quite have the hang of it yet. Yeah. By the time we see him though, he could have changed his tune and softened to Quill being his new captain. Maybe we'll find out where he got that Zune from, huh? Okay, this might be cheating, but the next 4 entries on the list, they're kind of a package deal. We don't know much about what the MCU has planned for the Fantastic Four other than it's happening. Holy crap, guys, it's finally, eventually happening. And hopefully good this time. So let's start with the matriarch of the first family of Marvel Comics, Sue Storm. The Invisible Woman quite literally could have been hiding anywhere this whole time, but it seems safe to assume that by Phase 5, she'll be highly visible, or at least her impact on the MCU will be. And anywhere you don't see Sue Storm, you may find her more flexible husband, Reed Richards. It also helps that we've been introduced to a distant descendant of his in Nathaniel Richards, aka He Who Remains, aka King the Conqueror, aka Immortus, and so on. Dude's got a lot of aliases. This implies that somewhere out there is a great-great-great-grandpappy who also happens to be a super genius and one of the key leading Avengers. He'll make a fantastic father figure to not only his family of 4, but really the whole MCU. With Tony Stark up in the big machine shop in the sky, we need another high-flying, wisecracking playboy sucking up the oxygen, and nothing sucks up oxygen better than fire. The Human Torch will soon be yelling flame on and setting fire to our screen shortly, and like Tony, he also tends to share a rather close relationship with Spider-Man in the comics, although in more of a direct peer relationship than a mentor. He also plays a rather significant role in Secret Wars, so we'll have to wait and see if he goes full Nova Flame. Look, Ruffalo might not be in this game forever, but before he goes anywhere, I'm getting my Hulk versus Thing battle, okay? Somewhere at some point, we gotta see Ben Grimm in all his NYC glory with his big heart of gold take on an out-of-control Hulk. The Thing is a New York staple, so while it would be fun to see him on his home turf, he also later joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you know what? Sign me up for the Thing in space too. Oh, but how weird will it be when he meets Korg? Kevin Feige admitted that he has been trying to find a place to introduce Richard Rider for years. There was discussion of seeing his origin when Thanos destroyed Xandar until it was cut from Infinity War and mentioned off screen. It can't be long now before we actually get the last remaining member of the Nova Corps, and a simple flashback to Thanos destroying shop would be just the ticket. The idea of the last remaining Nova Corps bestowing powers onto a high school teen sounds peak Young Avengers. That Young Avengers lineup is starting to sound pretty packed, but what's one more? She's got poise, she's got grace, she's Miss America. No, not any of those ladies. We're talking about America Chavez. She's Marvel's first Latin American LGBTQ character and is set to make a live-action film debut in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, as played by Xochitl Gomez. She was raised in a reality outside of time, which we could see with all the time play Kang introduces, and she can travel between realities, which could really come in handy going forward. And yeah, this last one might seem like a long shot, but we've seen Howard the Duck. It's time to bring back the Quack. He was the first proper Marvel character to get a solo movie, but it was hot garbage.
You know, this is beginning to seriously undermine my self-esteem.
And while there's charm, we'd like to see the surly, hard-beaked version that James Gunn introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy post-credits. Duck yeah, let's do it. The big question now with the What If series is if we'll see any of these alts spill over into the mainline MCU as well. Also, I know we didn't touch on any Spider options, but that could be a whole list in itself between fan favorites like Spider-Gwen and, of course, Miles Morales.